We have an awesome show for you guys today.
The greatest eventer of all time.
Good news for the sport.
Welcome to the John and Rick Show, brought to you by Horse Trailer Pros. We are in season 3, episode 21, John. It is a great show. We have David Voss, we have Sara Kozumplik, and we have Sara Kelson. All great guests for us. What have you been doing? Where are you right now?
I'm actually sorry about the background not being quite as awesome as usual. And I know we did our last show, Rick, from your awesome studio there.
Awesome studio.
Okay, our awesome studio in your awesome house. And we are so excited about doing that. And I know a lot of the audience was like, yeah, you're back in the studio. But I'm lucky enough to be up at Tryon. I've got Just My Style in the 3-star, and I'm fingers crossed going to go smoke around this weekend with him. So I'm up here and I'm at the rental house, end of the day, and just getting ready to kind of roll through the weekend.
Great. Well, I wish you a lot of luck. I know Lisa's up there. This is an event that is going to be minus her father, and I'm sure I'll be getting some calls because she does like to admit it, but doesn't like to admit it. She's like, I always need you as a security blanket, which really makes me feel good, though.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice thing of her to say.
Yeah. I mean, she calls, she was talking to me this morning. She goes, I'm calling you for the weird thing. I need my dad's approval. So I thought that was sort of cute.
Yep.
So you're ready to go. You're at Tryon. We're getting prepared for Hurricane Nicole.
I know. I'm really worried about that, man. I've got really good people back home, and I know they're totally capable, but I'm nervous because I'm up here and I've got a farm sitting in Florida,
right?
Getting ready for a storm.
I feel so bad for Floridians on either coast because, you know, it's late in the season for a hurricane. We're going to get one. It's not that big, but at the same time, those are always the one that does the most destruction. And, you know, I just hope that it sweeps across, just gives us some wind blown stuff and gets out.
Yeah, hopefully. So let's see, what did we do this last weekend? I know I was at Rocking Horse. Horses were good there. You guys had a good weekend, I believe.
Yeah, Lisa had some good goes, and my stallion, Ultimate Secret, was ridden by amateur rider in the Open Beginner Novice, and it's just so cool to see my stallion take care of an amateur rider and just bounce around and get a 28 in the dressage and, you know, have a really good time. And it was that Chase Hutchins' first event, and he, you know, the stallion just took care of him and did everything. And it's a 13-year-old stallion with a soul that's from heaven. So it was fun to watch.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, it was fun to see him, and you know, it'd been a little while since he'd been out, so that was pretty cool. And
talk about your cool horse. So Fernhill
Copain.
Yeah.
Kurt. Yeah. Did his third prelim. He's looking good. I was excited about him. So now he's on vacation. Good for him.
I saw you out there. You were jumping great. And, you know, I think you talked about a couple things that you might have ridden him like he was some experienced horse, but I
did. I was smoking around the first part of the course, and I came into the angles. They had like a set of angled houses, and I thought, oh man, he feels awesome. He's got this big stride. You know what? I'm going to ride it a little more open, put a little more angle on that. And I jumped the first one, and he left long, and I'm like, oh God, that's not the one I wanted to see. And I had to flail and kick to the second one, and I galloped away, and I was like, okay, listen, you idiot. Speaking to myself, not poor Kurt. I'm like, listen, you idiot. He's 6. He's not an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, or 10-year-old advanced horse. Stop riding him like that. Ride him like he's just a really good young horse, and don't be dumb. And
you'll
so
do it.
Put myself back
again.
Together. Yeah,
you'll do it again.
I know, but at that point he'll be a little more experienced, and it'll hopefully be.
What
better.
Are you reading?
I'm trying to get results. So what I'm getting here, Rick, is we just had Galway, and the 4-star long. It was a small division. There were only 4 in it, but I will say that James Alliston and Paper Jam did do a great job. They smoked around the cross country. They did add 12 time penalties and a rail and show jumping, but they won that pretty handily by like almost 15 points, 14 points or so. So congratulations to James. And then Kaylana Smith Cook, who is the one and only Tammy Smith's daughter, finished second in that division. So
Very good.
congratulations to those guys.
I
And
think,
then,
how about Jonelle Price?
yes, so that was the next thing I was trying to get here.
So
Because
she won the 5-star and now retiring Moet.
Yeah, and I'm gonna screw up the name, and I apologize, Jonelle.
No.
What's Ferry D'Animo? Which is the other mare that she won the 2 back-to-back 5-stars in 2018. So she's retired them both. And I'll tell you what, aside from being incredibly good riders and super nice people, is they are so good at keeping these horses going for incredibly long careers. And that is just testament to their horsemanship and their ability to keep these horses rolling. I have all the admiration for them in the world for being able to do that. And congratulations to Jonelle.
So how
weekend
many 5-stars this year has the Prices won? Is it just the Maryland and Poe, or was there more?
We're going to get massacred for this because we should know.
I know we should.
They won Maryland. I know they
won Maryland and Poe.
Yep. And then just before Maryland, he won Bookalo, which is not a 5-star, it's a 4-star, but Tim won that.
They're on fire.
They're 1 and 2. So, I mean,
on fire. That's
pretty impressive. The other thing we should actually talk about a little bit, it was Poe, right? Where they had this corner in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a bunch of activations of that corner in the water, right?
Yes.
So did you watch any of it?
I did not get to watch it, but I heard about it.
Okay. What did you hear?
I heard that it activated quite a few times, but I didn't hear anything other than if it was bad riding or if there was just a bad set of the angle or what.
So we're going to have Dave Voss on here later, and he'll talk a lot about how frangibles work. But yeah, and angles. But one of the things that I think is, just as a personal opinion here, is anytime you have a fence activate on course, you have to accept the fact that it was a significant strike. Like, I think Dave will tell us it's something like 500 times more energy to activate a MIM or reverse pin than a show jump. So it is a huge force. So I believe I can conservatively say it was 8 horses activated that corner in the water. So to me, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, Rick, I hear we had 8 activations of a corner in the water. And my reaction is, okay, so let's be kind and generous here to the course designer and say that half of those would have gotten away with scrambling through it and just have a bad day and a sore horse that night, which is not good, but let's just say that. And I would be willing to bet it would actually not be that good a number. So that means you would have had 4 falls, significant falls, hypothetically, at that fence in the water. So I look at it and say, is that a rider issue? Possibly. But if you have one fence causing that many falls, had it not been frangible, that would have been a seriously badly designed fence. And I think we can't only put the pressure and the criticism on the riders for not riding well. I think we have to say that was a bad jump in a bad place, poorly designed, and was a bad look for the sport. And I believe we are very fortunate that we have the frangible devices that activated. At the same point, I think that the course designer needs to be held accountable and said, look, man, you're lucky that it was frangible, but it was not appropriate for whatever reason. It was not appropriate. And I know none of this is ever done on purpose, but it was not appropriate. You could have caused 8 significant falls at that fence. And had it not been frangible, that fence would have been pulled off way early on in the competition, right? And I just think that's a piece that hasn't been talked about enough.
I agree with you. And I can't, typically I watch everything, and for some reason I didn't get to watch Poe. And I think when we hear Dave talk, I don't know how the writers wrote that and what was happening, but I didn't realize this, and we're going to learn this soon, that if you are better off at a corner riding at the angle subscribed than hitting it straight on with the frangible activation. So I don't know how they were ridden. The 8 that activated, I don't know, I will have to go back and watch and kind of get back to us on that. But I agree with you. I agree with you.
And I think that's right. We should go back and watch. But I also just think it's a numbers thing, right?
I agree with the number. If 8 activations, something had to be wrong with the design of.
It may not have been 8. I think it was somewhere between 8 and 11 is what I heard, and I can't remember. And I apologize. I have it, but yeah, it was a lot. And I think, to me, I just keep going back to the numbers of that. I'm like, okay, was there bad riding? I am certain there was bad riding,
but not 100% of the 11.
Right. And even if there's bad riding, you can't have horses hitting the deck, which is what the frangible is about. But I also think 2 things: you'd never build a frangible fence somewhere you wouldn't build it if it weren't frangible.
I think that's a good rule. That's a good rule.
It is. It's in the guidelines of frangibles. Like, as a designer, they are not supposed to put something somewhere that they wouldn't. And I believe it was Pierre Michelet was the designer, and I know him, and I guarantee you he didn't put it there like, oh, it's frangible, so it'll be fine. He's very experienced and very good at his job, but I think he made a mistake here. And then, again, I think the other thing is we can't be okay with, oh, we had 8 activations and say, oh, it activated too easily. That to me is not a good argument. We have to say it was inappropriate where it was placed and it did not ride well.
We have to get out. I mean, even after talking to Dave, which everybody's going to be hearing, and to your stories as well. I think we should all accept the activations as godsend, and that we are safe and we have a sport that does that, and not start complaining and going back and it's too easy to activate. We're just going to have to go forward with what happened and just know that we're still here to keep going.
Yeah. And that it's a significant force to activate them. So let's do this, Rick. Let's take a break, and then we're actually come back and we're going to have Dave Voss here, and we're going to learn about him, and we're going to learn about frangibles, which is pretty cool. All right, let's take a break and we'll be back. Rick, we're going to be back with our Stress Less segment right after this.
Yeah.
Want to advertise on the John and Rick Show? Contact John at 352-875-8622
or call Rick at 850-879-2649.
For a horse owner on the road, your trailer is essential. No one enjoys being stuck on the road. At Horse Trailer Pros, we repair, renovate, and maintain all makes and models of horse trailers. We work directly with your insurance company or manufacturer for warranty repairs and insurance claims. Our state-of-the-art facility provides quick turnaround and friendly customer service. Considering a living quarter conversion? We do those too. Find comfort on the road with Horse Trailer Pros. Call or text 352-804-2131. HorseTrailerPros.com.
Dusty Rose Farm, a beautiful and newly renovated 25-acre farm, is offering long-term or seasonal rent, dry stalls, and layover. Located in Anthony, Florida, it's just 30 minutes to both Weck and Hits, 15 minutes to Majestic Oaks, 35 minutes to the Florida Horse Park. 38 stalls available for rent in 2 barns that have all the amenities. Large stalls with new mats and automatic waters. Plenty of turnout, a half-mile irrigated track, 300 by 300 natural sand arena with a full jump course and dressage court. Loads of parking with 2 full RV hookups. Call or text for rates to book your stay in sunny and warm Ocala, Florida. 636-751-1200. I'm John Holling. We run Holling Eventing out of Willow Run Farm in Ocala, Florida. We run a full-service training facility here at Holling Eventing. We have amateur clients, we have sale horses, we teach lessons, and obviously our own competition horses as well. When Kurt first arrived at the farm, he was a little bit nervous and excited. Stress Less really helped so we could get him in a training routine. Stress Less is really easy to use. It's a part of our program. He gets it as a daily supplement, and it helps us keep him focused and ready to go to work. This year, we're moving Kurt up to the preliminary level. He's been doing great, and I'm very excited about the season to come. I'm John Holling, and I'd recommend Stress Less to anyone who wants to help their horses stay calm and focused.
Welcome back to the John and Rick Show, brought to you by Horse Trailer Pros, and we are in our Stress Less segment, and very excited to be joined by Mr. David Voss. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Sure, nice to be here.
Yeah, so for those who maybe don't know a ton about who you are, I'll just give a little brief sort of story. I remember I had just started as the chair of the cross country safety committee, and I got a phone call from my friend Liza Haran, and she said, I know a guy and he is the smartest man you're ever going to meet, and you need to find a way to get him onto your cross country safety committee. And I said, whatever. Yeah, I'll talk to him. And so I called up this guy, Dave Voss, and I think I spoke to you for about 5 minutes, and then I begged you to be on the committee, and really the rest is history. And I'll just say this, Rick, and not to like try to build you up too much, Dave. I want to make sure I butter you up for this, but I will say Dave has this ability to be able to take something that's incredibly complicated and confusing and say it in a way that anybody can understand, which I value a lot, because it makes it super helpful, super easy to be able to run a committee. And honestly, for myself personally, if something we're talking about technical wise is a little bit of a struggle, Dave always seems to be able to explain it to me so that we can understand it. Additionally, Dave, you do own some event horses. You've evented yourself. And I think it's okay to say you own a part of Z, right? And is that the only one you have with Phillip?
Z and Sea of Clouds, and
Okay.
We've had probably part ownership in 5 or so of these horses. So, and we used to be an owner for Jen Simmons when she was competing for, I don't know, better part of a decade. So it's been fun.
Yeah, so you wear a lot of hats. So why don't you just talk us through, Dave, a little bit? Obviously, you've owned, you've ridden, you've evented, but you also have had a really successful professional career. So sort of what's your day job, or what was your day job? What do you do?
Yeah, so right now I'm retired, but my day job was an engineer in the domain of basically what makes drones or unmanned airplanes fly. All of the automation, the system estimation, the controls, the whole picture. And that was a really exciting career starting in South Africa. And then I went for 5 years to MIT, did a master's and PhD there, and then worked for a number of companies all around the country in the 90s, set up that business, grew it, and we timed it really well. So it grew like crazy in the early 2000s. And then suddenly it was Paris Air Show, I think 2007, just everyone was knocking on our door wanting to buy the company. So we sold it in 2008. And
Wow.
Along the way, it's been in the early parts of the 2000s when I first learned about eventing, I really wanted to do it, but I knew nothing. And so it was a little bit embarrassing. I was on a crazy mare and things were wild, but in between my work, which was pretty busy. I mean, starting and growing a business from nothing, just a collection of patents and ideas, into a successful business it's kind of a full-time job, but it went really well, and I managed to find an hour and a half or 2 hours every morning before work to ride, and either that or late in the evening. And then sort of at the end of the decade, 2010 timeframe, 2009, I had some really nice horses, and I was learning enough to not fall off or not do stupid things, and start doing a little bit more competitive riding. So it's been really fun.
And then what's it like? Not, I don't necessarily want you to give like the sales pitch unless you want to, but what's it like being an owner of horses for a guy like Phillip? Like, you're part of that team, and that's a pretty unique thing to do. And we really haven't had, a owner per se on the show before. So, what's it like being a part of Phillip Dutton's team?
I mean, it's really awesome. I mean, he kind of, we sort of fell into this, right? We had a bunch of horses for Jen, and she decided she was going to stop riding. And she said, look, the best thing to do with these horses, she had 3, I think they were really nice. She said, take them to Phillip and he'll figure out what to do or sell them, or maybe he'll even compete them. So we did that, and that started the relationship with Phillip in 2015, 2016 timeframe. And then along the way, there's a really nice horse. His name is Sportsfield Candy that Kevin Keane rides today.
Yeah.
And Candy was a horse that was way too big for me, so I just didn't even get on him ever. And Phillip rode him and competed him and actually won the 2-star at the time at Jersey Fresh in 2016. And at that time, he said, it's a great horse, but it's never going to be fast enough for 5-star, for his level, for Phillip's level. He said, so why don't we sell him? So we tried to sell him. And shortly after, I mean, we didn't try to sell him, we started selling him. But shortly after we put him on the market, Phillip suggested Kevin. And we said, perfect, we love Kevin. And so we gave him a really good deal. He has the horse. And since then, we've been very closely involved with Phillip. And he said, okay, so what are you going to do with this money now? How about you join one of my syndicates? So we said, perfect, let's do that. And his sort of going in message was, the main point is fun, and none of the owners are creepy or jerks or anyone you won't like.
That's important.
So you'll just have fun. And it's been true to his word. I mean, it's been wonderful. We've had trips all over the world. We've had a number of horses and all the ups and downs, but I mean, and he's just a pretty amazing horseman as well. So it makes the whole process really, really exciting.
Well, that's incredibly cool. One other thing before we go into the big thing I want to discuss with you, which is going to be frangibles, and we'll sort of tease that a little bit. And at some point, I'll let you say something, Rick.
That's okay. I'm enjoying listening.
All right, perfect. The other thing that I think is really neat, Dave, is you're such a multifaceted guy, and you have a lot. You're obviously intelligent, and you have a lot of projects on the go. And one thing that I thought was really cool is we were at one of the FEI meetings. I think it was in, oh gosh, where are the Beatles from?
Oh, yeah, it was up in Liverpool.
In Liverpool. We were sitting there and you started
Liverpool.
telling me about this project you have with the Voss Foundation. Is that right? Where you plant trees?
Yeah.
So are you still doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big part of one of the nice things when we sold my business is we set up that foundation, and the foundation sponsors USET. We sponsor also through the Eventing Foundation, and then separate from the sort of horse riding world, I sponsored a PhD student at MIT for 5 years, and then around about 2017, Patricia and I, my wife Patricia and I, sort of were thinking, well, what can we really do that will have some impact with the foundation? And I grew up in South Africa, and the sort of astonishing things, if you love animals, one of the astonishing numbers is when I was a kid there were 500,000 lions in Southern Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and there's about 20,000 left today.
Wow.
And I'm not that old, I'm 60 years old. And I mean, that's just awful, right? And so when you try to think through how to reduce that level of destruction of nature, and also pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the world, just in the flavor of population growth, the destruction really of nature and all its resources, and then giving people opportunities. There's this really nice intersection of 3 domains: poverty, poaching, and climate change. And the intersection is biomass, planting trees. And if you can plant, basically the math is pretty straightforward. If you can plant 1 trillion trees by 2030, 2 trillion trees more than we have today, we'll have 4 trillion trees on the planet. And that will put us in really good stead to absorb basically all the CO2 that humans' activity on planet Earth emits every year, which will hold the growth of CO2 in the atmosphere steady while we figure out how to transition off of fossil fuels and off of greenhouse gases. So that buys us a several decades long bridge to get out of our sort of greenhouse gas emissions habit and getting to a sustainable energy future. And so we found some groups to team with, and we've planted, I think, 3 or more million trees in Mozambique that we launched in 2018. And the group that we team with is planting millions of trees a day now in multiple locations around the world. So we still have a lot of work to do. I mean, and there's really interesting sort of outgrowths of this, which is carbon trading, because carbon trading is a really good way to have the world continue to fund the growth of biomass and real carbon credits. Anyway, so we can talk about that for days or weeks or years, but it's really exciting, and it's a nice thing to be able to do.
Well, I thought it was so great, right, Rick? Because you hear all this stuff, and a guy like me, I'm like, wow, that's terrible. I guess I'll use less plastic. And you took it and like have done something with it, which I just think is incredible. So if people want to take part in that, just briefly before we have to go to break, where do they find the way to donate to the Voss Foundation?
Oh, we have a website. It's kind of clunky, but it's thevossfoundation.org. Voss
Okay.
with one S. And there's a donate button. Yeah, there's a donate button there. Or you can go directly to Eden Reforestation, which is the team that we've teamed with. But anyway, if there's any requests on that side, we can handle that offline. I mean, it's pretty easy. I mean, we plant trees for about 15 cents a tree. It's really amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, kudos to you, and thank you for doing that. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to take a break. We're going to check in with some of our sponsors. We want to thank Stress Less again, right, Rick?
Yeah, Stress Less is a great calming supplement for your horse. You need to get it and try it.
All right, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with Dave, and then we're going to change gears a little bit. I want to talk about some frangibles. So let's take a break. We'll be right back.
I'm Gabby Ruane, and I run Ruane Eventing. I run my program out of Reddick, Florida. I start off in the morning bringing the horses in, feeding, and then tacking up and riding pretty much all day. It's always a busy day here with multiple horses in training. When Mufasa first arrived, he was quite sensitive and reactive as a young horse. I decided to start him on Stress Less. I've tried quite a few other supplements, and I felt like they all dulled him. Stress Less was the first supplement that really let me get through his tough moments, but I felt like he could still keep that spark that made him special. Stress Less helps keep Mufasa calm but responsive even through his tough moments. When Mufasa first arrived, he was quite reactive and sensitive, and I needed something to help me get him through those tough moments. Mufasa began his career as an event horse last year, and this year I hope to move him up to the preliminary level and then end the year with a 2-star long. I'm Gabby Ruane, and I would recommend Stress Less to anyone who wants their horse more focused and rideable overall.
Hi, my name's Leslie Law, and we are a proud supporter of Jump for Joy. We've been using their portable cross-country jumps now for about 10 to 15 years. We love these jumps because, as you can see, they're very easy to move. It would only take another person on the other side, and I could place this fence wherever I wanted to very easily.
Rick Wallace here, bringing you Equibrew, a live probiotic that is geared to help your horse's gut health. I'm a true believer in this Equibrew, and it really makes a difference in all of my horses. Equibrew is safe, non-toxic, and clean sport compliant for FEI and racing events. Equibrew is an intact fermentation product with very high numbers of beneficial microbes. Order at equibrew.com or 850-879-2649. Welcome back to the John and Rick Show, brought to you by Horse Trailer Pros. We're still joined by David Voss, and we are going to talk safety for eventing. Obviously, Dave, you've got a pretty good stead on this with your engineering degree and all the things you do. I have heard you speak before, and as to John's, what he said, you make it really easy to understand the technology. So John, I'm going to let you take over as well, because you and Dave have a really good understanding of what's going on right now with the safety with the clips.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I guess one thing that is sort of been relevant lately, ever since really the last Olympics, is the MIM system. And for me, I think one of the big things is a lack of understanding by the athletes. And so also just by the general audience and fans of the sport as to how the MIM system works. And then additionally, the difference between the red clips and the yellow clips. And I've explained it to enough people, but you do a much better job of it than me. So if you can just talk us through that system and why we use it and why there's these different colored clips.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the concept is fairly straightforward. And just like in show jumping, if you were to hit a rail, in order to not impact the trajectory of the horse, either causing it to trip or rotate or fall, you make the rails as light as possible, and so that they move out of the way. And to bump a rail on a show jump course takes about half a joule of energy. A joule is just a measure of energy. And so we have the same sort of principle on cross country, where there's a simple way to figure out how much energy is dangerous for a horse if it impacts a solid object, and how solid is the real question. And turns out that the numbers are a couple of hundred joules of energy, and they can cause a rotational fall. And what we're trying to prevent is rotational falls, whether it's slightly skew off the shoulder or whether it's purely over the top. But anytime the hindquarters of the horse come over the top of the body of the horse, that's a pretty bad fall. And the energy level that can cause that is as low as about 160 joules and as high as almost 1,000 joules of energy. And just to give you a context of what those units mean, a horse running at 600 meters a minute or more has many thousands of joules of energy in totality, like 10,000 or more. So working with only a few hundred joules to prevent a rotational fall is a little bit of a trick. And so what we did is the work that had been done by both British Eventing and in particular the MIMS guys, Mats Bjorneton and his team, was around the domain of making a rail or whatever gets impacted by the horse move out of the way quickly enough so that the horse's trajectory can continue forwards, and then you don't have a rotational fall. And so critical, it became, what is the level of energy and how do we test for that? And so we came up with this really simple idea of a kettlebell, this roughly 40 kilogram chunk of steel. You swing it on a string or a chain, string would just break.
And to that really quick, Dave, there's a video of that, right? I think it's still on the US Eventing website. Is that right?
Yes, there is. And there's also one on the FEI website that shows you how to do the testing. And it simulates the impact of a front limb of a horse. And if you're doing, say, for example, a vertical with a rail, so post and rails, and the rail is on two hinges so that if you hit it hard enough, it moves forward and down. So basically quickly as possible out of the way of the horse's trajectory. And then the horse can continue going forwards. And the concept for a straight on impact like that lives around the 250 joules. That's what we've set as the requirement for a front rail and the FEI frangible fence standard. And if you're coming down onto the back rail of a typical oxer, that level is around 700 joules that needs to break the frangible element.
So briefly to that point, Dave, I don't mean to interrupt, but just so, because I think this is a really important piece. Remind us, what's the force to knock over a show jump?
Show jump is half a joule, 0.5 joules.
So when and I've been guilty of it, when we go out cross country and we argue that never should have fallen, my horse barely hit it, and the pin or the frangible clip broke too easily. And like I said, I've done it. It's a bad argument, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's just a grain calibration. So I've heard people say, well, we're turning cross country into show jumping. Well, you're talking about 500 times more energy to take down that front rail on a cross country MIM clip front rail than it takes to knock down a rail in show jumping. So we're definitely not show jumping.
Right.
And it's also kind of interesting. I mean, let's see, if you had this 40 kilogram thing, so that's about 88 pounds, right? That's the test that we do. And you drop that from just 3 feet height, 1 meter height, it's going to be 400 joules. So imagine dropping 88 pounds onto your foot from 3 feet high. You're going to have a very painful foot, right? That's the amount of energy we're talking about. That's 400 joules. That's right in the mid-range between 250 that we set for the front rail and 700 for the back rail. And there's a bunch of really interesting and simple equations of motion here and kinematics of motion of a physical body, what defines the math that defines how it flies through the air. And that's, the domain that I come from. That's all my professional work. So I literally have modeled it that way. And then you can determine how much energy it takes to cause this kind of a rotation. And that's where those numbers come from. So I generated a set of design curves, and we can determine roughly where is a typical horse going to get really close to the fence before takeoff for a front rail, and what's the typical horse going to be in terms of percent completion of its trajectory when it comes down on the back rail of an oxer. And that's typically around 45 to 50% at least of its flight trajectory on the back rail. And that's what sets those numbers. So roughly 15% or so after it takes off in the front is the front rail, and that sets the 250 joules. And then roughly 50% into the trajectory on the back rail, that sets the 700 joules. And these are for typical event horses, that weigh roughly 1,100 to 1,300 pounds, and the sort of 16 hands or maybe 17 hands or higher. We have to take some rough average or representative case to capture this, because we can't design for every single case. And so that new set of requirements was released last year, 2020-ish, 2021. There was an update to it where we just basically improved the testing definition. We didn't change the energy levels. And then the important thing that comes out next is, well, so what do you do for an angled fence? And again, if you take a step back and think of the way we came about these numbers, we're really contemplating a horse impacting something that causes the horse to rotate. And that's an energy level and an impulse, given the mass and the momentum. And a typical crash, you're doing conservation of energy and conservation of momentum once that crash has happened. And that defines the energy levels and the impulse to cause such a rotation. Whether you hit an angled fence or whether you hit a straight fence, as long as the horse hangs a leg, so to speak, and catches somewhere, it's the same energy level and the same impulse. So the way to translate that into an angled fence then, given that the angled fence will fall a little bit not along the trajectory of which the horse is, because the horse is jumping at an angle, we have to just figure out, well, what's the equivalent energy that the clips need to release at in order to have the impact on the horse feel the same as if it hit it going straight into the rail. So from the horse's point of view and the rider's point of view, jumping the angled fence with the yellow clips or jumping the straight on fence with the red clips, the impact to the horse, given that it hangs a leg, is the same. And so it's not going to feel any softer. In fact, it feels exactly the same. So then the question becomes, and so that's how we designed the angled fence and the open corners and any angled fence. It's the exact same test, the exact same energy levels. It's just this kettlebell is then set to hit the fence at an angle, and the fence has to release and get out of the way. That's the test. The question then becomes, so if you change your trajectory coming into an angled fence, what is the impact upon you as a rider? And is it getting easier or more difficult? And it's kind of an interesting topic, right? Because what happens is if you took the yellow clip fence, let's say it's an open corner, and you jump the front rail only about 10 degrees off instead of 45 degrees off, which you would need to do to get across a 90-degree corner. And you're doing that for reasons, however, you as a rider are planning your ride. As you move off of the full angle to the fence, you reduce the level or the impulse or the energy that's going to cause the clip to release. So if you came at an angled fence, for example, that's just a single post and rail that was designed to be jumped at 45 degrees and you jumped it at 90 degrees on, it's going to release at half the energy. So it's going to be much easier for you to trip that rail with the yellow clips if you came at it straight on, right? So this is the gamble that the riders have to take. Do I risk tripping it more easily and jumping it not the way the course designer said? In other words, I'm going to not jump it as an angled fence, which the course designer wanted. I'm going to angle it a little bit less steeply for my own riding safety, but the risk is, or my own riding preference, the risk is you might trip it more easily.
So in short, basically, as I understand it, they put the yellow clips on because they're intending you to jump it on an angle, and the yellow clips release more easily because they need to, because you're jumping it on an angle.
So it won't release more easily if you jump it at that angle.
Correct.
The impact on the horse will be the same as if you jump a red clipped fence straight on.
Right.
Right?
So,
The impact you will feel as the rider and as the horse is exactly the same.
So, and as I understand it, then I think Tokyo is a good one. The people that, so the concept, Dave, was, well, you can't take it at an angle because it trips more easily, and that's not true. It's trip more easily if you come and do a bending line and make it a straight face and hit it that way.
Exactly.
Interesting,
So
because I think that concept was different, so it's good we got that.
Yes, and so it really provides the course designer a tool to encourage the riders to ride the course the way the designer wants them, right? Which is, this is an angled fence test. I'd really like you to jump it. The safety and the impact and the risk to tripping inadvertently tripping a clip is just the same as if you jumped a vertical into a coffin with a red clip. And remember, those numbers are set to not have trivial tripping, but to be safe. So the trivial trip is set at the 160 joules. That's the minimum level that we wrote into the standard. And the requirement is don't let it go higher than 250 joules for the front rail. So it's quite a big range. It's almost double. And it is set by preventing the horse from having a rotational fall if you have a bad day and you miss the distance and you get too close in. But exactly right. You really want to have the designer be able to say, I'm doing a test here, which is an angled fence. I'd like everyone to ride it at an angle. And when you ride it at an angle, your risk of having an inadvertent tripping of that rail is very, very much small. And it's the same as if you just jumped a coffin fence or a vertical post and rails, or a wall for that matter, straight on with red clips.
See, and thanks for that explanation. Because John, do you remember the discussion with Tokyo? Is like, we're gonna have to change our ride to make sure we don't activate the clip because we're gonna hit it face on, so we're more not.
Totally.
And now that's, I mean, you're better off doing your angle because you're gonna have more joules to be able to go that way.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think the value here is to me, and having a guy like Dave not only here today to explain all of this, which is why I wanted you on,
Right.
Dave, to be honest,
Helped
so you can
me
explain
already.
it. But like I said, I've argued this as a competitor because I wear all these different hats, right? And so I'll tell a quick little story. I know we're running a little bit long, but this is such a good conversation. I was at Red Hills a few years ago. I was on a very good horse, a frangible rail into the water. I hit it behind, I activated it, and I went up and I actually said to Mikey, yes, I said, I know I'm going to lose this argument before I even start it, but I'm going to have it anyway. There's no way that should have activated. I didn't hit it hard. That's ridiculous. And he said, okay, come with me. And he walked me out to the water, and I stood there looking at it, and he reached over and he grabbed the left-hand post and he moved it back and forth. And he said, you hit this so hard that you moved that post. And I was like, oh, okay. So not only did I activate this clip, I also mashed it and moved the post a good 4 or 5 inches. And it was in there hard because I went over and checked the other one that hadn't moved. Like, I whacked the what out of it. Yeah. Fortunately, it activated and my horse didn't even have a bruise because he hit it on the boot, thank God. But I think, like, to your point about Tokyo and everybody being upset about that, Michael Young having that rail down and gosh, he didn't hit it that hard. It feels that way. It looks that way. And to be honest, it's supposed to, because that's what the technology does. It saves bad falls. And if it doesn't save a bad fall, it saves a terrible whack that your horse probably isn't going to be walking away from soundly, at least not immediately. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it's really important that we do this, because I mean, everyone's watching, right? It's not just eventing, this little under the radar screen microcosm of people anymore. It's on social media everywhere. And it's
everywhere.
I mean, we have to be more responsible about trying to make sure the animals and the humans have the best shot at coming away clean and having another day to go and compete in the event you make a mistake. I mean, and the numbers are a little surprising when you think about how often we make mistakes. Me as a knucklehead amateur rider, I make mistakes a lot. Like 1 out of 20 jumps, I don't get the distance perfectly, right? And even the top riders, though, will get the distance not that well 1 out of every 100 approaches. And those numbers are not, that's not low enough to have a bad day occur when you really mess up. I mean, you really want to be able to keep going, and fine, you get a penalty. The penalty just teaches you and your horse how to ride better. But the sport goes on, and it's a good sport. It's still super competitive and makes everyone more competitive.
Right. Well,
totally agree. And before we move off that, just John, and you can probably attest to this, we were at Rocking Horse this weekend, and I was Rocking Horses had a tragedy there, and I looked out there this time and there were so many frangible tables and rails, and I just loved seeing that. And it just, it makes me feel good that the frangible system is being used and utilized by event organizers and builders. So I think that's great. And thanks, Dave, for being a part of really making our sport safer.
yeah, absolutely. I think Dave froze there, but hopefully you can still hear us, Dave. I will just say, yeah, there, we got you back. So
Yeah,
Dave,
sorry.
no, you're good. We got you back. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for explaining all of this to us and to the audience so that everybody can understand it. I'm a big advocate of the more that the athletes, the more that the officials, the more that the general fan base of this sport can understand how this stuff works, the better we're going to be. I'm always out there when I'm walking, trying to explain to my students and my friends, hey, this is why this is set this way. This is why this is set that way. And it's not because I'm just trying to act like I know what I'm talking about. I think it's so important that we at least have a basic understanding of what we should expect as far as the frangibles and course design and horse training and rider response and all of the pieces of that Swiss cheese model. And I just really appreciate you coming on here and explaining this piece of it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Enjoy
All right.
it.
So we are going to take another break, and then we're going to be right back. And Rick, I believe you are going to be down at the Florida Horse Park, and you're going to be interviewing the winner of the Notting Hill Eventing Prix. Is that right?
That is right. Sara Kozumplik.
Right. Perfect. So we will be right back down at the horse park with Rick and Sara Kozumplik.
Jump for Joy fences are easy to move, lightweight, durable, and low maintenance. So we're out here on the cross country. We just finished over in the show jumping over the Jump for Joy fences. Had a great time schooling over them. They're really nice and easy to move, so we were able to adjust some things and really have the exact school that we needed thanks to the Jump for Joy fences. I love them.
Order yours at jumpforjoyusa.com.
Dusty Rose Farm, a beautiful and newly renovated 25-acre farm, is offering long-term or seasonal rent, dry stalls, and layover. Located in Anthony, Florida, it's just 30 minutes to both Weck and Hits, 15 minutes to Majestic Oaks, 35 minutes to the Florida Horse Park. 38 stalls available for rent in 2 barns that have all the amenities. Large stalls with new mats and automatic waters. Plenty of turnout, half-mile irrigated track, 300 by 300 natural sand arena with a full jump course and dressage court. Loads of parking with 2 full RV hookups. Call or text for rates to book your stay in sunny and warm Ocala, Florida, 636-751-1200. When it comes time to compete, I demand the best out of my horses and myself. That's why Elemental Fit Lab, the home of CrossFit antics, is my home gym. Coach Vilma and her team create a fun, welcoming environment for athletes of all levels. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned athlete, Elemental Fit Lab will guide you towards a stronger, healthier version of you. Mention the John and Rick Show to get 3 free personal training sessions with enrollment.
Welcome to the John and Rick Show, brought to you by Horse Trailer Pros. We are at Notting Hill Stables Invitational, and we are with Sara Kozumplik. And Sara, you were the winner of the Eventing Invitational today.
Yes, I will say that Rubens was the winner of the Eventing Invitational
There you go.
today.
Hey, it was exciting to watch.
Because I got him at one jump right underneath there, and he just
climbed over, but
got a little bit lucky.
You're so lucky to have that great horse,
I am,
right?
I am so
and
lucky.
you have a big supporter behind you that has been with you for a very long time. Let's give her some kudos.
Very long time, yeah, Edie Ramika. And Edie has actually been an owner of mine since I was 20 years old, and I am 43. So
that's crazy.
That's pretty. And to be fair, Edie's become one of my best friends and really family. But I'm very lucky because I have about 4 people that have been involved in my horses for 10 years or more. Some as long as Edie, but really my 4 main ones have been at least a decade. And then so I am very blessed.
You are blessed, and I see a lot of the nice horses that you have with her.
Yeah.
And you know, the places that she comes with you, and the farms, and it's so great, and to see you prosper, because we watch you, Sarah, and you're amazing though, because sometimes you're hard on yourself. But I watched you, I think last year, and it might have been a difficult year for you, but let me tell you what, you were riding amazing. So congratulations to that. And then I watched you today, and yes, you climbed up some, but hey, you trained that horse.
He's a good boy. Well, I didn't train him. He's just a gift from God.
You know what he needs.
But no, you're right. And I appreciate you saying that about Edie, because there's no way I could have gotten through some of the stuff I've gotten through and without her. And I think without our friends and without our support group, it can be really hard. It's a hard sport on the best of days, so it's it's very important.
It is, and it's a good segue, because Sarah's going to be here later.
Yes,
but Sara,
amazing groom, Sara Kelson.
Kelson. Yes. Sarah actually approached me at the table at the tent, and I said, congratulations. She goes, I have a story about you. I was like, uh-oh, what story is that? So she had started working, and I'll talk to her when she comes, for grooming for the Hollings, and she said, she was there, and that
learned
I said
so much there.
Learned a lot.
Worked
she goes,
under those guys and Katie Long, and it was great.
She said, you said some things to me that really stuck with me over the years, and I was like, I don't know what I did, but so she won the Grooms Award.
She's a consummate horsewoman, and there's no way I could do anything without her. My horses love her. I have a very busy schedule, as I'm lucky enough to have, with the different things I have going on, and my number one priority in a groom is that I don't have to worry about my horses. They love her. She does an incredible job. She rides beautifully as well. And there's absolutely no way I could do this without her. This is actually her second Groom's Award of the season. She won at Great Meadow as well.
And I think, did Dougie Hannum provide that?
Yes, Dougie did. And I think there were a couple of other, now I'm feeling bad.
Well,
but
we
Dougie,
can get the list on there.
And you know what? Dougie is always supporting everything that we
Definitely.
do. I mean, talk about another icon. So
exactly. And in saying that, let me say Terra Nova came off pretty well in the sophomore year.
So.
You know? And I know a lot of things have been happening, but I, was very lucky to be a part of that last year, to come down and do the John and Rick show there and talk to everybody.
We're so grateful you guys did that.
And what's happened in a year, because you were telling me how to get somewhere. So what has been your thoughts over the year? I just thought I know there was glitches behind the scenes, but nobody knows about them.
There's always teething when you're just starting, starting stuff, but most of it's very, very
footing
good.
And the buildings and the stuff that they've done. So tell us about next year. Are you excited?
I am excited, and I know a lot of people were blown away this year. I have to say, for me, I was actually also really impressed and blown away last year, because it's just all such a process from when we were there at a field of cows, and that family is fantastic. It is a family endeavor. Everybody's working on it. The honesty and drive and hard work and giving back to the community on every level, not just the equestrian community, obviously, because they are hugely supportive of local charities and trying to engage the community, really. So going forward, I think the sky's the limit. I mean, I try not to say stuff like this out loud, but I would love to create, I think we'd love to create a mini Aachen in and around the whole park-like atmosphere, but just bring many different disciplines to one venue, that educate people about horses, like have more educational clinics and things, and just grow the sport in in Western Florida, which I think, judging from the response so far, is that it's not going to be it'll be good.
I totally agree. And we had Jacob Fletcher on actually in our last show, and he gave kudos to Terra Nova, because we are looking at places where facilities are having a struggle, right? And he gave this. I look at Jacob and I'm like, wow, it's an asset-based pavilion where they have estates for sale and stuff like that to help through the different processes, and then running a CDI the same time they're running an FEI event. I thought they did a really good job. There was some things that need to be tweaked, but I thought that was great.
Oh yeah, I mean, we kind of wanted to do a little bit like what Kentucky does, because I love that, having that show jumping going on at night. So I think bringing in the dressage and the freestyle, it made it really fun, and the dressage riders seem to really love it. So, I mean, I think, onwards and upwards, and we like to do something a little bit different. Our idea is to be a bit like the Kentucky Horse Park with a parkland feel, bringing in, obviously Florida is very different with the wetlands and everything, but the harmony with nature is a big part of it as well. So,
well, I wouldn't want to rule out Chris Barnard and Justine for what they've done here. It's been an amazing invitational. We're getting ready for the meter 40 jumper.
Yeah, and Chris Barnard, like, are we so lucky to have him on our sport? I
Incredible.
cannot believe the amount of things he continues to do.
Let's give a call out to the show jump designer here.
Yes, well, Renardo, I actually, he designed once. I rode his courses for the first time at Split Rock or not Split Rock, but one of the jumping shows in Terra Nova. And I drove to Kentucky, honestly, this summer because I wanted the opportunity to jump courses like that again in that kind of venue, and got, to me it's like a riding lesson just to jump his courses.
I got to be honest, because you rode another horse this morning.
Yeah,
Devil Munchkin.
Yeah,
and he's a cool horse, but I watched you and I know you've got to work him a little bit, right?
Yeah,
and so you were like one of the first ones I was watching. I was like, Sara just had to really work in that jumping course, and I was like impressed because you did a great job. So anyway, I thank you for being on the show. Congratulations! I'm always so pleased to see you do well. You are a great inspiration for all of us. You do so much for us.
Right back at you, my friend. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks. More later.
For a horse owner on the road, your trailer is essential. No one enjoys being stuck on the road. At Horse Trailer Pros, we repair, renovate, and maintain all makes and models of horse trailers. We work directly with your insurance company or manufacturer for warranty repairs and insurance claims. Our state-of-the-art facility provides quick turnaround and friendly customer service. Considering a living quarter conversion? We do those too. Find comfort on the road with Horse Trailer Pros. Call or text 352-804-2131. HorseTrailerPros.com.
I'm John Holling. We run Holling Eventing out of Willow Run Farm in Ocala, Florida. We run a full-service training facility here at Holling Eventing. We have amateur clients, we have sale horses, we teach lessons, and obviously our own competition horses as well. When Kurt first arrived at the farm, he was a little bit nervous and excited. Stress Less really helped so we could get him in a training routine. Stress Less is really easy to use. It's a part of our program. He gets it as a daily supplement, and it helps us keep him focused and ready to go to work. This year, we're moving Kurt up to the preliminary level. He's been doing great, and I'm very excited about the season to come. I'm John Holling, and I'd recommend Stress Less to anyone who wants to help their horses stay calm and focused.
Rick Wallace here, bringing you Equibrew, a live probiotic that is geared to help your horse's gut health. I'm a true believer in this Equibrew, and it really makes a difference in all of my horses. Equibrew is safe, non-toxic, and clean sport compliant for FEI and racing events. Equibrew is an intact fermentation product with very high numbers of beneficial microbes. Order at equibrew.com or 850-879-2649.
Welcome back to the John and Rick Show, brought to you by Horse Trailer Pros. That was a great interview with Sara. John, we are in our final segment of this episode 21 in our third season. It's been a great show. Now, we have a really cool interview with another Sara Kelson, who won the Grooms Award at the Notting Hill Invitational. And let me tell you something. Chris Barnard, his group, Max Corcoran, Justine Dutton, they're all trying hard to really put on a great show with the Invitational. It was really well done. Katie Wentz was there with the Triple Crown tent put up. We had a rider's lounge. John Kyle was flown in as the announcer. It was awesome. I think next year, I hope that he gets it live streamed. But they're trying to do the right thing, and I think it's really cool. I got to ride in it on Tuesday with Ingo Mar. I wasn't really prepared to do the meter 25, but I will next year. Right. And so it was fun. I wish you were there.
Yeah, I wish I'd been there too. I was getting mine all prepped up for try on, so it didn't quite make sense for that particular horse to go jump around a big track. But yeah, I was there.
You could have brought somebody else.
Yeah, I could have. You're right. I didn't. So I
That's
missed
all right.
it.
We'll let you off the hook.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I missed being there. It was a great time. I went there last year and it was awesome. So Rick, quick little side note. I do just want to mention to all of our viewers, like we like to do every show, make sure you guys check us out. YouTube and Instagram, not Instagram. You check us out. You can check us out on Instagram. We're there too, but check us out on YouTube and all your podcast players. We're on Facebook,
iHeart.
Yep. We're on all of them. Give us reviews, comment on YouTube. I'm also trying to give away that t-shirt and I have yet to get anybody to text me their address. So
I know, isn't that weird? But I want to tell you something in the story. I wish I had her name. I should have pulled it up before the show, but somebody sent me a picture of their vehicle with the John and Rick show on Spotify.
That was Shalane. That was Shalane Kozak. Yeah.
And she said she listened to 12 hours of us.
That's a
12 hours.
I can't listen.
I can't even listen to 12 hours of, I don't know, anything. So that was great. Thanks for doing that, Shalane.
Yeah, Shalane, you're the best. We'll have to have Shalane on sometime. She's like Canadian superstar. So
she was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Shalane.
Hey, so what we're getting prepared for, I think we should all give extra nod to grooms.
Yes.
Grooms make up our sport for us as professionals and amateurs and young people. Boy, do they love their jobs, and they do a great job. And so special shout out to all the sponsors of the Groom Award at Notting Hill Invitational. And I think it comes out in the interview, but I think she won, Sara, won Best Groom Award, which was $350. And then she won the Best Groom Award for the winner. So she won another $350.
So drinks on Sara.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, let's go check out Sara. It's Sara Kelson. And I think you guys talk about it, I believe, a little bit in the interview, but she actually was a working student for Jen and I. She's a great girl. And when she left us, she went back home to California, and I didn't actually realize she came back out east, and I saw her at an event with Sara, and it was so great to see her. And I'm just so happy for her that she's kind of found her spot.
Yeah, definitely. And you froze a little bit. So
and great to hear from her. So let's go check it out.
So I'm excited to be joined by Sara Kelson, Sara Kozumplik's groom, who has just won the Groom's Award at the Notting Hill Stables Invitational. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I think that's really cool. So I'm going to call some people out real quick. So this Groom's Award was made possible by Buckeye Nutrition, Total Equi Health, Funky Unknown Horse Treats, Red Oak Equine, Respond Systems, Double Clear Equestrian Center, Dougie Hannum, and Triple Crown Feed. So you won a good bit of money for that.
I did. Very exciting.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. So I hear from Sara, you're like groom extraordinaire. So how did you end up with Sara?
I ended up with Sara through a friend, Katie Long.
Yep, we know Katie.
Yes, we love Katie.
We call her Katie Price.
Yes, yeah, no, Katie, who I met when I was working for John and Jen Halling.
Right.
And became close with. And I kind of just wanted a change of scenery after COVID hit. So I figured I might as well, quarantine on a beautiful farm with some new people. And
so real quick on that. So if you'll scan over there, Briggs, Outlook Farms logo is, we're on the Jumper Invitational right now. Chris Barnard and Justine Dutton has done a great job. So back to the grooming for Sara. She's like the nicest person in the world. Is that like all the time?
Yes. No, she is. I think like you get into looking at social media and you think, oh, this is like the best version of someone, and that's kind of actually just who she is on a day-to-day basis. Well, she's always like deflecting from the attention from herself onto others, and always remembers to thank me and thank everyone. So it's amazing.
And that's what I notice about her, because I always tell her, I'm like, every time I'm around her, I just smile. So I kudos to you to get a great job, right?
Yeah.
And she actually was talking about you, that she said the horses absolutely love you, that you're an amazing rider. And so obviously you're doing something right.
Yeah. No, I just feel so incredibly grateful to work for someone so amazing with her horses, so kind to everyone. It's unreal.
That's really a great thing. And I know Sara just keeps getting, better and better. I told her last year, even though it was a hard year for her, she rode so well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
she
it's so
continues
exciting.
doing that now, and the horses look fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And so I'm really glad we got to spend some time together.
Yeah.
And congratulations on a
Thank you
great
so
job. And I'm
much.
glad
Thank
you
you.
won the Grooms Award. And I
Yeah.
think you won Grooms Award plus Grooms for the Groom
The winning horse, yeah,
winning
too.
horse. So you
Yeah.
we're gonna have drinks on you.
Yeah, no, it's a very surreal.
I think it's fantastic. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
So back to you and our sponsors.
Yay.
All right. Well, thanks for catching, Sara. That was great to hear. And like I said, I'm really proud of her because she did work for us for a bit. I'm sure we taught her everything she knows. But no, congratulations, Sara. Yeah, she's a great girl.
Hey, before we go, good luck. We're all going to be thinking about you. And
Thanks, man.
The show comes up on Thursday. We will be out there cheering for you on Saturday.
Yeah. I don't know what day I do dressage. So I may be done with dressage by now. I'm not sure.
Well, you'll be in the top 3 after dressage. We want you in the top 1 after dressage.
I'm just taking it step by step, man. Just gonna do my best. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be cold up here.
I know.
You guys
Everybody
will be getting rain.
hold
We'll be
in for the
getting
hurricanes.
freezing.
We'll be thinking of you guys up there. Wear your parkas and join us for our next show.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We have an awesome show for you guys today.
The greatest eventer of all time.
Good news for the sport.